Thank you everyone for coming here today. We are going to be focusing on service provider perspective with Boingo Wireless and Multinet Pakistan on how their journey has been on the commercial adoption of the TIP OpenWiFi and the Open Optical and Packet Transport solutions. So with me here is Derek who's the CDO of Boingo Wireless and the CEO of Multinet Pakistan, Adnan Zaidi. I'll start with Derek very quickly. So in the previous panel, we discussed about, from a supply ecosystem point of view, of what disaggregated open Wi-Fi and disaggregated, open optical solutions bring on the table and the larger benefits. So while we heard from the supply ecosystem, it's extremely beneficial to now understand, from the horse's mouth directly of who are actually deploying this and, the associated benefits. So Derek, starting with you, maybe it would be great to, introduce a little bit about all the deployment scenarios of Boingo Wireless, and what is the role that you're playing in TIP ecosystem. We know you are part of, or you're co-chairing the managed service alliance as well within Open Wi-Fi. So just a little bit of introduction about that.
Sure. So thanks for coming, everyone. I know it's very interesting out here trying to talk to you. So I'll try to speak up. But anyhow, as you know, some of you may know Boingo Wireless. Some of you, I assume everybody does. Most of you probably know Boingo Wireless, and you're like, oh yeah, you guys are the guys in the airport who create airport Wi-Fi. We've been around for over 23 years now, doing Wi-Fi. We started with, and the vision back then was create Wi-Fi, and because it wasn't Wi-Fi back then, it was called 802.11, and it wasn't inside computers or phones for that matter. And it was like, okay, how do I get people connected when they're traveling, just like our founder used to do when people were home, Sky Dayton with Earthlink. And so, we've evolved obviously from 23 years ago, and what is that airport business most people know about us is like 1 to 3% of our revenue, and what we've really done is we've changed. I got there in 2012, and we changed what we are, and we're really just a neutral host provider. Our job is kind of like an IT guy going into venues and trying to help them solve their connectivity problems. And as we all know, when you go in to solve these connectivity problems, you can bring cellular, you can bring private networks, you can bring all kinds of different connectivities, wired connections. But the challenge is trying always to find the right mix for the different partner that you're trying to do this IT services for. And so we realized early on that we needed to expand instead of just using a single OEM to be able to provide connectivity, because different requirements require you to have different OEMs. And so when TIP came around and we could use WRT and we could take it to the next level, we were like, this is a good thing to be a part of. And so we ended up joining right away. And, as he said, we're doing the MSP Alliance, chairing that, trying to help push the envelope forward. Because at the end of the day, we need to be able to provide connectivity. And we need control over how we get that equipment. Sometimes we need it cheaper. Sometimes we need, higher end stuff. And we need to improve on providing that connectivity layer with multiple different partners. And so TIP does that. It lets us do a standards-based approach instead of a proprietary-based approach to do that. And we like that. I believe standards are the way to go. Proprietary systems, unfortunately, they eventually they cost you out one way or another. And so by being standards-based, it gives you that flexibility you might need in certain markets. And so we're deploying about 2,500 of these right now, the open Wi-Fi networks. We've got more coming. We're hoping to get, 10,000 of them in this year and more. And working with multiple OEMs and using a standards-based approach, which for us is important because it allows us to have APIs and be able to build on our secret sauce on top of it. So that's kind of where we're at. With that, I expect, like I said, continue to push more and more of this. One of the things I'm looking forward to is being able to, and maybe I'll get into this later, and I'll let you to ask him other questions. But I'm looking forward to the next level of the standards that we're pushing, to really drive new opportunities that in the past you couldn't get from standard OEMs.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek. So moving on to Adnan. So you've been a very recent entrant as a service provider into the TIP ecosystem. So to introduce, it would be good for the audience to know what is the length and breadth of the business units and, what Multinet does in the Pakistan market. It's a very primary player, as we understand. And what are the associated benefits that you actually saw when you entered the TIP ecosystem? Maybe we'll start from there and then move on to the developments that have transpired from here on.
Right. Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming. So Multinet is a very agile and technology innovative player in Pakistani market, and we have been working in this in Pakistan since almost 21 years. We were the first people to introduce DSL broadband in the country, where people doesn't know about what broadband is. We are an infrastructure provider in the country, and we own long haul networks, metro networks, and we 5 years ago we went into Wi-Fi domain, where we want to connect all many people to Wi-Fi networks where cell phones operators are not providing the services to these people. So we are providing services in airports, mall, and all of that. So TIP ecosystem. So we started our journey a year ago with TIP when Meta introduced us to TIP infrastructure. We were previously looking into open disaggregated networks, open line networks. We were exploring certain OEMs for that. But when we came to know that there is a platform there where we can utilize all these partners, and they can help us build a network that can work in open line architect. So we opt for it, and from there we started the journey. It's been a year where we started these projects. So there are two kind of projects that we are looking into. One is we have our long haul network, which we are upgrading it to 200G. Completely on open line architect system, and that's one of its kind in the country as well as in the world. So we are connecting 80 cities on our network for that matter. For OpenWiFi, we have about 100,000 users who connects to our Wi-Fi on a daily basis. Our plan is to give connectivity to as many as we can, and our plan is to go up to 1 million users in next 2 to 3 years. And for that, we are making huge investment and what Derek was saying, that for Open Wi-Fi or the open architect system, it is always about scalability. It is always about swift responses. It's always about inventory management for that matter, that we have seen in last couple of years that that we are having issues on that part. So TIP help us a lot, and all the vendors partner in this ecosystem help us a lot, and we are going ahead with that.
Perfect. Thank you, Adnan. So Derek, another quick question, right? I mean, so what the basis or the fundamentals of TIP has been to bring demand players, service providers, and build an associated ecosystem of technology providers more on the open and disaggregation principles. So when you entered the TIP ecosystem, how did Boingo see themselves as driving some of those demands, some of those requirements? What were the benefits that you saw there? And it took a little bit of time, right? Because you joined at a very early stage, where even the ecosystem still develops every month and going forward, right? But when you joined, there was an involvement in terms of trialing out Open Wi-Fi. So how do you connect the two? How was that journey? How was that experience for you, for the audience and the members to know?
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying, innovation doesn't happen. You make it happen, right? So when we're thinking about trying to create a new marketplace and a new abilities, you think back and you say, okay, years ago there was Sun OS, there's HPOS, there's all these different OS systems, and we were all trying to launch different services on it. And then what happened? We saw Linux come in, an open source solution come in, and we were able to drive innovation into the marketplace by taking away the proprietary stuff. So when I was working on my doctorate, one of the things I worked on was we did this study and we showed, okay, are standards better or patents better for innovation for the world? And we ended up doing the study. We proved that standards help innovation better. Openness creates innovation. And so when the opportunity came, when Facebook and others said, hey, you know what? We need to disaggregate this proprietariness of these systems a little bit, and we need to go standards-based. I jumped right in. I did it with OnGo Alliance. I'm on the board there. I did it with MultiFire when it came out. I was on the board there, and I decided I'd do it here with TIP, with Facebook and the others here, because I think it allows us to sit there and try to push the envelope forward. Right now, we're talking about OpenWiFi, but you'll see over there, Open RAN's a big part of it as well. What we're going to do is we're going to create an ecosystem so that everybody can innovate on top of it through standards-based capabilities. So for me, it's kind of into my DNA to say, go join these things to help push the industry forward and be able to do it in a way that allows a lot of players to come in. And that's why I enjoy being a part of TIP. That's why I'm going to keep doing this as part of, whether it's in my career, whichever career. To me, that's an important part of what we're trying to do and trying to give back. So being a part of TIP at the beginning stages is really about just trying to get everybody to realize the value of having an open architecture that we can all feed into, that we can build on. And that platform now is working. Like I said, we're deploying it on the Wi-Fi side. We're seeing it move forward. We're on the Open RAN side, and we're going to continue pushing that forward so that we all have platforms. And then eventually, those old players will come back in. They'll be a part of it. And then we'll see what, like the Red Hat of Linux, we'll see those players come in, and they're going to be a big part of it too. And they're all there. So all the current OEMs are part of TIP, and we're going to see them starting to think about it because they're starting to go, well, this is actually starting to have some range. I can add my secret sauce on top of it as a service, which is we're all going into. And I see it as an opportunity to really change it so that the world is connected, which is what we're all focused on. We're trying to bring connectivity to everybody across the globe, and we're trying to do it in a way that's responsible for the different markets that we're trying to service.
Great. So connecting the dots for Adnan, right, from Multinet. So you've made some recent big adoption news on both aspects. You spoke about OpenWiFi and Open RAN. Multinet here, you've gone ahead and invested into the largest adoption of OOPT for upgrading your transport networks. Alongside, in almost the same time frame, you also made announcements and you also went ahead with adoption of OpenWiFi. So what changed from a Pakistan market or from a South Asia market, I would particularly say, 5 or 6 years back, or maybe almost a decade back, the habit or the environment was very closed. How did you take that leap in terms of being the first player, if I'm not wrong, in that market to go ahead and make everything open and disaggregated?
I think since last couple of years, we always thought about, where the technology is going and why we are dependent on certain vendors to do certain jobs as they deem fit, right? So 2 years ago, when we started looking at different other areas of technology and where the technology is going, we came to know about there are options where you can have white boxes, and then you can do segregated, disaggregated networks and plan according to that. It was a very difficult choice for us because long haul network is our bread and butter for the company as well as for the country as well. So going forward for this was a very important decision that we had to make, and the reason why we made it is because of our partners. So partners like EdgeCore, partners like Smart Optics, partners like IPI, they came to all of them worked with us, understanding the project, understanding the need analysis with us, and they started helping us in drafting the entire technical drawings and all of that. And we did a small test run, of course, on that part, that if it makes sense, does it work? And we, all of this we are doing in a very stealth mode, and we do not want our existing partners or incumbent to be worried about what is going on in that. But we made a very deliberate decision that we want to be on open access, where we can negotiate, we can work with all the partners and give them opportunity to innovate in their particular domain rather than sticking to one partner and going further. So that's why we made a full-blown move towards long haul upgrade, open line upgrade, and Wi-Fi upgrades in the country. And many are looking at us in how did you do it, and now the story has started.
So, as a follow-up to that, Adnan, maybe it would be good to understand, what is the length and breadth of this transport network, and the deployment of Open Wi-Fi. What are the volumes look like? What is the in terms of Open Wi-Fi as well? What is your future expansion plans?
Right.
But more so also on Open Optical. I mean, the partner, one of the partners, EdgeCore, happens to be the common ecosystem player there. So what are your plans there? Maybe it would be very good for everyone to understand here.
We run a 7,000-kilometer long-haul network connecting 120 cities in the country, and we are covering about 70% of the population on that particular network. So we are upgrading that to 200G, and we know that there is a huge demand of internet content exists in the country. We are a population, the country's population is about 220 million people. Out of that, 1/3 population is under the age of 30. So we are a very young country to be, and they want content to be on. So this was a move for us to go into that direction and start working on upgrading our network. And right now, we have telecom partners with us. We have local domestic customers with us, and they are all utilizing our services. As far as Wi-Fi is concerned, so since last 5 years, we have been into Wi-Fi business, and we are doing business where the backhaul is only available of fiber. We are not connecting any backhaul through wireless mediums. Wherever we are, we have to deploy fiber to the last mile, to the AP, and then we start distributing the network. Currently, we have about almost 700 locations that we have deployed, mainly focusing on the hospitality segment, stadiums, and all, and education sectors on that part, and airports. Our plan is to go and almost 100,000, 125,000 people get connected every day. Our plan is to go to 1 million users within the next 3 to 4 years, and we are planning to invest at least 2,000 to maybe 1,500 to 2,000 APs a year, and see things. By the way, our service is for free. We are not charging anything right now on our Wi-Fi network. We know exactly that our telecom infrastructure it's not that good to support the user volume for that, and we are just supporting their users in that.
No, that's great. Thank you, Adnan. So, Derek, I think picking up from the volumes discussion, you mentioned you started off with 2,500 APs. What is the future that you see? You spoke about tens of thousands. How has these deployments been coming along? But more importantly, I mean, in terms of growth, in terms of scaling, and that's what you're looking at. Are there any challenges that you want this ecosystem to further figure out? Because it's obviously an evolving ecosystem, both in terms of partners as well as features, right?
Yeah. Well, we're at a point of evolution. So, there are certain use cases I currently wouldn't use the equipment for today, and there's use cases I would. But it takes evolution. If we look at the form factors that are available today on Open Wi-Fi, we don't have all the form factors that I would need to cover, large areas perhaps, or to cover, huge areas like this perhaps. So there's definitely an evolution happening. I think the other thing that's happening is we're seeing a combination of a lot of different technologies. I'm looking forward to being able, and one of the new variants that's coming out that we're working on is having a container that I can put inside the AP, and I can put code inside the AP to actually do things like speed tests and analytics that right now I end up having a separate box I deploy to do, and I can put it all inside the AP. It's some stuff that we built to make sure networks are good. So we're going to continually see, because it's a standards group, we're going to end up having people come into the standards group and say, hey, I want to see this. Let's work on this. The other thing is we're starting off and we're focused on access points, and we're focused on these other optical networks. But the other thing we need to do is switches, right? So that's another thing we're working on is, okay, what's the standard for switches, and how do I end up having a single pane of glass, a single set of APIs that works across my Wi-Fi, across my optical network, across my switching network, And then across some of these applications that I want to also deploy to make those networks better, and really have a way that's standards-based, that you choose which APIs you want to use, you figure out how you're going to put it together, and you have that flexibility that today you kind of go to an OEM and you're like, okay, I have to have that and that and that from that guy and that from that guy, and you're kind of stuck inside a silo. So I'm looking forward to that. It's all standards-based. And so that's another great thing, is we're going to see an opportunity for us all to have an influence and create the next version of connectivity. And eventually it's converged connectivity. It's Wi-Fi, cellular, all of that together. It's not a separate ecosystem of partners and players, which I think is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Adnan, another last question for you. You mentioned about, how you move from a traditional way of, technology or technology providers working with you to this ecosystem where you have Edge Core, you have IP Infusion, you have Smart Optics, you have a local system integrator like Starcom. While it all sounds great, right? And you went ahead and done that, you must have, the reason I'm talking about this is a lot of service providers ask us, right? I mean, through TIP, that, hey, open and disaggregated is great, but, how does this ecosystem come together? Who do I, contact? So how did you solve that challenge? Because before anyone makes that investment, that's the first question which comes in your mind, right?
Yeah. So first of all, we need to understand the technology, where it is going and where the direction is. We need to sit down with all the partners together, and we have to run certain tests on our network. And that's exactly what we have followed. Our tests were successful, 100%. Our vendors, our partners in such cases are very flexible. And they help us by providing us different, projects details about, we did this in this particular project, and we can embed that to help you in understanding the technology, where it's going, and these features will help you understand this particular part. So for us, it's a year-long journey, and we have to check everything. Like I said, it was our bread and butter project, and we need to make sure every checkbox has been, checked, and we did it, on that. And I'm really looking forward to see that this network gets live in next 6 to 8 months. And all the hard work that we have done as one team under TIP, it will start, producing result, and has set an example for others to follow. That these kind of projects are very important to exist. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Adnan, and thank you so much, Derek. I think it was very important when service providers like yourselves, you're going ahead and deploying large scale, whether it's Wi-Fi or whether it's open optical. It's really, really important for the industry to know, what were the challenges, and still crossing those challenges, how you actually looked at the benefits, and how, you're developing and building future ready networks. So thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for taking the time and coming here, and looking forward to many more collaborations together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.